So I spent last week in New York City doing a bunch of stuff with Fox News, and on every single show that I went on, I was asked, can you believe that Zohran Mamdani won? Yes, I can. That's literally not surprising to me at all. He won for the same reasons that Donald Trump won back in 2016 and in 2024. And they are unfortunately now two sides of the same exact coin. So the battle for Gen Z and Gen Alpha voters just continues to wage on, but it really, in my opinion, as a Gen Zer, is not a hard nut to crack. And right now, the Trump administration and conservative Inc., they are losing the younger generations. And nothing that the Trump administration has done in the past week is helping, to put it bluntly, because immediate relief, immediate affordability is not the same thing as long-term solutions, and that immediate relief that you're talking about might just screw over my generation in the long term. And that is why we're upset. Now, we're going to talk about this in a minute. Before we do, though, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And of course, guys, click that notification button so that you always stay up to date on all of our episodes and you never miss a thing. All right, let's just jump right in here. So everybody's talking about Zohran Mamdani. How could this have happened in New York City? Guys, contrary to what some of the boomers are saying, Zohran Mamdani did not win because everyone in NYC is some kind of radical black trans socialist. Like, he won because he promised affordability. He won because he genuinely seemed like he was enjoying the campaign trail. Like, he was everywhere. He was on social media. He was going viral. He was out doing Tai Chi with old ladies. He spoke to New Yorkers like a New Yorker from his small apartment in Queens. Meanwhile, the alternative, Andrew Cuomo, was sitting behind a desk making AI videos, living in Westchester, New York. Allegedly, he hasn't even lived in New York City since 1990. He simply registered to vote in New York City when he decided to run, and the address that he was registered from was his daughter's apartment. So it was very evident from the get-go that this man did not understand normal New Yorkers, as he wasn't even one of them. Like, nothing about Cuomo was authentic or relatable, but unfortunately, Mamdani was. And every single day, he talked to New Yorkers about the price of housing, the price of food, the price of transportation. And while I believe his socialist ideas are insane and will not work and will backfire, you can't really argue with the word free. You can't really argue with the idea of affordability when you consider the economy that we are currently living in. Millions of Americans are financially drowning right now. And so no, it is not a shock to me that New York voted for him. It is not a shock that my generation that is struggling to start in their careers and buy homes overwhelmingly voted for Zohran Mamdani. Just like it was not a surprise to me last year when Donald Trump won. Because the number one issue in 2024, I'm sure we all remember because it is still an issue today, the number one issue in the last election was the economy. COVID, lockdown after lockdown after lockdown, Biden, the endless wars, they were draining us. They are still draining us. It is why millions of Americans who were independent or on the left said, okay, fine, I will vote for the big bad orange man. I will dip my toe over party lines because hopefully trying something new will work. Hopefully my dollar will go further if I vote for the businessman. But guys, here we are a year after the election and very little has changed. And that's hard for me to say because I'm somebody who does enjoy Trump. I voted for him. I put all of my energy behind him. I genuinely believe in him and have believed in him. And while Trump has been successful on some parts of his agenda, people are not feeling tangible change when it comes to the economy, and the clock is ticking and people's pockets are getting thinner. And I think that the New York City mayoral election was a major wake-up call to the administration because now, over the last week since Mamdani won, it seems like the Trump administration is frantically trying to make moves to make Americans happy and keep them in Republicans' pockets. But I'm sorry, as a young person, as somebody who is in Gen Z who will live to see the ramifications of these policies, I'm out. Like, this is not something that I can support. Like, the only positive thing that is happening right now that I can see is that Trump is looking into the meatpacking industry, which is something that my friends over at Good Ranchers have been fighting for. Because for years, foreign-owned processors have held control over our beef supply, pushing ranchers down while driving prices up for American families. These corporations profit while the people who actually raise our cattle in America are undercut in the marketplace. Meanwhile, over 85% of grass-fed beef sold in our country is imported, yet still labeled product of the USA, and that is totally legal. My friends over at Good Ranchers have been fighting against all of that and supporting real American ranchers every single day, and you can help them do that. Their meat is 100% American, raised on local family farms, and delivered straight to your door. You are not only getting amazing products, but you are also bolstering our American farming economy. So if you are ready to get started with them and support this mission, just go to goodranchers.com and use my code Brett to get $100 off your first 3 orders. $40 off the first, $30 off the second, $30 off the third, plus free meat for life when you subscribe. That is code Brett at goodranchers.com. But hurry, because this offer ends December 1st. And don't just stop with healthy eating feeding and supporting ranchers, you also need to take care of yourself, because the traditional healthcare system is not designed to help you feel great. It is built to keep you within range and within their system. So if your doctor says everything is normal, but you still feel off, you still have low energy, brain fog, stubborn fat, or mood swings, it's not in your head. You just need a deeper look and a partner to help you do that. That is where Merrick Health comes in. Merrick goes far beyond the standard checkup. They run advanced lab testing to uncover what is really holding you back, whether that is hormones, thyroid issues, nutrient deficiencies, or other imbalances. They will figure it out. Their expert medical team builds a personalized plan to actually fix the root cause, not just cover up the symptoms. You get the insights, tools, and medical guidance you need to take control of your health and start feeling like yourself again. I've worked with them for years. I did this myself. I can promise you, you will love this. And right now, as a Brett Cooper viewer or listener, you get 10% off your first order with them. Just go to merrickhealth.com and use code Cooper at checkout to get started. If you've been waiting for a sign to take action with your health, this is it. Stop guessing, start optimizing, because feeling your best does not have to be a luxury. It is your responsibility, and Merrick is going to give you the roadmap. Now, back to the point and back to everything that Trump is proposing right now, we witnessed in 2021 and 2022 what happened with the stimulus checks the first 3 times. The fact that it gave people brief relief during the lockdowns and then completely screwed over our economy in the long term due to how much money was spent that our government did not have, that our government should not have been spending. It gave relief in the interim, but we now know, as many people were saying at that point, that it spurred inflation. And now, 3 years later, in a seemingly desperate attempt to get the economy back on track and make people breathe a little easier and feel better like he promised, Trump is floating the idea of $2,000 stimulus checks for all Americans, I think making under $75,000 or $150,000 together in a dual income home from his tariff revenue, which in my opinion just seems like a recipe for accelerating our inflation rate even more when it is still so incredibly high. His admin is also throwing out the idea of 50-year mortgages to help struggling Americans get into the housing market and have lower payments. 50-year mortgages. We're not going to get the rates down. We're not going to lower prices, nothing like that. No, you are just going to be in debt longer. This post went viral thanks to President Trump. We are indeed working on the 50-year mortgage, a complete game changer. And this is something that he actually posted. This is a graphic he posted on his own Truth Social account. There are good intentions here. It would help people get into the market. It would make your monthly payments lower. But that also means that if you bought a $500,000 house in 2025 with the current interest rates, at the end of those 50 years, you would have spent $1.5 million on that house. And the majority of the time that you would be making those monthly payments, you would be paying the interest rate. That is something that absolutely shocked me when I bought my first house and I was looking at my, direct deposit, my automatic payments, and they distinguish it on your bank statement so you can see whether you're paying interest or your principal payment. I barely pay off any of my actual house. I'm only paying the interest rate to the bank. So imagine doing that for 50 years. And yes, I know people are usually not staying in their homes for 50 years these days, but again, this is not a solution for the root problem that we are facing, especially as young Americans who are desperately trying to get in to the housing market. And thankfully, seriously, almost everyone has called this out as being a terrible idea, from Crowder to Glenn Beck to random accounts on X. Everybody is saying, no, this is not a solution. I'm sorry, but that is basically the Trump version of the World Economic Forum idea that we will own nothing and be happy. You will never own your home outright. You will never be able to get out from under the debt, but it's okay because you'll have a house to live in. At that rate, just keep renting, because then somebody else, has to deal with the yard and will come and do the maintenance and fix the roof if it's leaking. Why at that rate would you even want to try to buy a house? Again, it does not actually solve the problem. Wow, amazing. Yay, guys. The economy is fixed. Are we so excited, Gen Z? No, this is not a real solution. This helps no one but the big banks. And yes, it makes things more affordable in the short term, but it offers no real financial freedom or long-term stability as inflation continues to skyrocket and wages stay stagnant. Now, in response to these ideas, there were thousands of angry comments, shocked comments. There were many memes that were made. This was my personal favorite response. Not Jerome Powell said, "You took out a 50-year mortgage?" Yes, Dave. You also took out a 15-year car loan? That's correct, Dave. And it's the disappointed Dave Ramsey. Somebody needs to do a wellness check on Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer, because I guarantee these men are not okay. They are fighting against this on a daily basis. And now Donald Trump's ideas are simply going to make all of this worse. Now, anyway, these ideas are absurd, and I'm grateful that people are pushing back on them. But what was most offensive to me this week, especially as a young person, was that now our current administration, the Trump administration, is saying that actually, guys, there isn't an affordability crisis. I don't know what you guys are dealing with, but no, things are not expensive. We do not have an affordability crisis. This is from Newswire. There is no affordability crisis, Trump officials insist. Yeah, right. Okay, so the gaslighting from politicians just continues. And they dug their heels in. I mean, look what Trump just said in a new interview with Laura Ingraham.
So, are you ready? Costs are way down. So when I took over, you remember?
Because you said Biden did that too, because he was saying things were great, but things weren't great.
It's synonymous, Biden and Kamala, you know, because you didn't know who the hell was campaigning. I mean, it got to a point. So I was up by 20 points on Biden or some crazy number. And they said, all right, let's get him out. We'll put a new one. This never happened to anybody. All of a sudden, I have somebody new.
Okay, why are we talking about the election? Why are we talking about Kamala campaigning and Biden? Like, that was a non-answer. Yes, maybe Trump feels frustrated. Maybe he feels caught and backed into a corner because he hasn't been able to deliver fast enough and everybody is angry. But for the love of God, like, please stop gaslighting us. Stop trying to divert our attention. Like, I mean, how is this any better than Biden trying to redefine the word recession to cover his ass and spending years claiming, no, inflation's fine, inflation's actually going down, everything's great, we aren't in a recession, when we were very clearly in a recession.
And why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
This is happening from both sides. It is so tiresome. Like, are you not exhausted yet? I am exhausted. Somebody also posted this and said it was the Sydney Sweeney format. It said politicians saying the economy is great, me after paying all my bills. Literally. Like, Americans are still struggling. Like, this just ran on Fox last week. Listen to these numbers.
Prices are up in the United States for coffee. It's up almost 20%. Utility up 11.7%. And then electricity is up 5.1%, and vehicle repair, if you need your car fixed, it's up 11.5%.
And these are just some examples. These are just a few categories. These are things that Americans are facing every single day. Meanwhile, the dream of owning a home and starting a family feels out of reach for my generation. I mean, in a new poll just from a couple weeks ago, it was found that the median age for first-time homeowners is now 40 years old. First-time homeowners. That is a record high. I think that the median age for repeat home buyers is now 61 years old. Now, in addition to that, Google searches for second job are also skyrocketing. So I'm sorry, no, you will not convince me that our economy is superb, that we are on the right track. Like, no, that is just not real. And maybe things are inching along, maybe things are getting better, you know, inch by inch, but we are not feeling it. And voters need that. They need that reassurance because things are hard. Like, what are we doing? We're sending money overseas. We're fighting online over Israel and Ukraine. We're fighting over how much more debt we can get our country into. We are renovating the White House. Like, young people, I'm sorry, do not care. We genuinely do not. Like, at this rate, the quote unquote culture war is not even appealing. Like, people my age do not care about owning the libs. We care about owning homes. That is what my generation cares about. But also, it isn't even just my generation. Also, this was really funny and like such kismet. But as I was putting this episode together, like sitting at my computer, pulling all these assets, these dismal numbers and abysmal ideas, my sister-in-law, who is my age, she texted me this. She said that people were giving her a hard time about going to the movies. And she said, I was like, y'all, it's like $15. And they said, that's expensive. And I'm like, question mark? That's way cheaper than going out to eat or doing anything else. And they were like, what are you eating, girl? And I was like, good food. And they were like, I can't afford good food. And then I'm like, okay, sorry, I don't know what you want me to tell you. If I'm 36 and I can't afford to go to the movies, just kill me. And that is just one funny text and one example. But so many young people, when I talk to my generation, when I read the comments, when I'm, scrolling online on TikTok, so many young people feel as if they are staring down the barrel of a gun because we have now experienced Democrats and Republicans in power and it feels like nothing is getting better. And my sister-in-law, I will tell you, she is not somebody who is eating out at fancy restaurants every night. She is not splurging and buying a bunch of new fancy clothes. Like, she went to the right college and got good grades and got a normal entry-level job in the industry that she wants to pursue. She lives modestly with roommates. She's getting married. She cooks at home. She basically eats ground beef bowls and sweet potatoes for every single meal. And she also feels this way. Now, obviously, there are elitists in our generation who feel entitled to everything without having to work or the struggle. Those are, the quote-unquote champagne socialists in our generation. Those are the ones coming out out of the left, the high-end universities, but I don't believe that that is the case for the majority of Americans. It's just normal, everyday Americans who feel chewed up and spit out by our political elites on both sides. So I'm sorry, but they are going to vote for whoever seems like they could shake things up and deliver. Last year, it was Trump. In New York last week, it was never going to be Cuomo, ever, hence why Mamdani won. Meanwhile, there's an absolute clown show happening on the right. The right is screaming at each other over who can platform who and whether free speech has exceptions, and Antifa is raging in full force, seemingly more emboldened than ever. Now, what you just saw as I was talking about that was the disgusting display that happened outside of the TPUSA event that took place at UC Berkeley this week. Fights were breaking out, attendees were threatened, people were getting beaten up, protesters stood outside literally celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder. I mean, that is disgusting. And again, they feel more emboldened than ever. Antifa was literally labeled a terrorist organization by Trump. But is that all? Like, is nothing else going to be done? Like, I'm sorry, again, people are just exhausted. But that wasn't always the case. I mean, we had about 3 glorious months of unity and revolutionary spirit after the election, but that's done. This person on X, Drunk Republican, summed up everything that so many people are feeling. They wrote, "I remember well the night of the last presidential election." I'm sorry, this is a long post, but stick with me. It's important. Trump's victory represented the greatest redemption arc of my lifetime, and it felt like we all played a part. The energy was unmistakable. It was as close to a revolution as most of us will get. A true democratic rebuke of an out-of-touch, corrupt government. It was only a matter of time before we turned the country around. For a brief second, it felt like we might. The market soared, companies promised new jobs stateside, and DOJ uncovered waste and fraud daily. But the dream suddenly soured. Almost out of nowhere, the administration pivoted from policies aimed at generational prosperity to those associated with perpetual poverty. 15-year car loans, 50-year mortgages, $2,000 stimulus checks, hardly the stuff of a golden age, unless you own banks that finance this stuff. And as prices once again rise, the president is insisting that we are better off than ever. It is insulting to so many, especially after living through the laughable denials of the previous administration. I am one of the biggest Trump supporters on the planet, and I say this out of genuine concern. This is a recipe for defeat, not only in the midterms, but for 2028 and onwards as well. I don't want to be a panickin, but I also don't want to piss away the last chance we have to turn this country around. The president desperately needs people to be honest with him about the situation on the ground. His victory last November feels like 1,000 years ago, and the statements coming from his staff are unrecognizable from the usual DC claptrap they supposedly ran against. Millennials and Gen Zers are hurting, and together they represent the largest voting bloc in the country, and they will remain so for years to come. There are better ways to make life affordable, and young people want and deserve an economy that allows them to flourish. Once they acquire a taste for free shit, there will be no going back. The American dream will officially be dead, and millions of voters will forever associate MAGA with its decline. Welcome to the midterms. Welcome to 2028. This is the barrel of the gun that we are looking down. Now, I want to read you another post, and I'm sorry I'm reading a lot of things, but my friend Savannah Hernandez, who I just adore, I think she is so smart. We are usually on the same page about everything. She does on-the-ground reporting for Turning Point. She also posted this. "I'm tired of based social media videos and big talk from the admin with zero follow-through," and she gives a bunch of examples. And she says, "This is why the right wing is divided, because Americans voted to feel safe, prioritized, protected, and every time we try to voice our concerns, we are labeled as anti-MAGA, anti-Israel, or anti-Trump for bringing forth substantial criticism of the direction of the party. I have watched the right wing implode over the last 2 weeks, and the reason we are is because so many are afraid to legitimately criticize the admin. It is our job to openly put the pressure on when we don't feel the country is headed in the right direction. If we refuse to do so, we are no better than the entire left who refused to criticize Biden for his entire administration." Like, mic drop. Like, this is where we are. This is literally the turning point. Now, thankfully, I do believe that we are better than the left and we have less groupthink, because I am seeing critiques of Trump. People are pushing back. He will put out policies, people will say, absolutely not, and he walks them back. So at least it seems like he's listening some of the time, I guess. But that doesn't mean that we are totally headed in the right direction. And then in walks a young mayoral candidate in New York City, and he takes over social media. He takes over the political landscape. And yes, he is a democratic socialist, but he didn't win because everyone in New York City is a socialist. He won because he talked about affordability. He talked about free things, and he focused on New York City, which is where his focus should be. I mean, many months ago in the mayoral Democratic debate, when every candidate was asked where they would go on their first mayoral trip, they all said, Israel. I'm going to go on my 5th trip to Israel. I'm going to go to Ukraine. I'm going to go to the Holy Land. Mamdani said, why would I leave? My focus is on New York and New Yorkers. I don't need to go anywhere. I want affordable X, Y, and Z, and that is what I'm going to be focusing on. That was about as refreshing to people as Trump saying America first, back in 2015. And I know that this man is not everyone's cup of tea right now, but this is exactly what Tucker predicted many years ago. And I just want you to listen to this clip with an open mind. Thank you very much.
If the goal is preserving the family as the core building block of any successful society, and it's got to be that goal, because it has all kinds of effects that we want, and it's just inherently good. I don't need to explain it, but I could. But the point is, if that's the goal, what are you doing about it? If you wake up one morning and you find yourself in a society where 23-year-olds with 4-year college degrees and like initiative who aren't smoking weed every day, if they can't make enough to buy a car, much less a home, much less get married, much less have children, then why should you be surprised when half of them say they prefer socialism?
I mean, again, this is exactly what happened 7 days ago in New York City. They said, well, why are we trying? Why are we fighting this? I've done everything right. I followed the path that was laid out to me. And look where I am. I feel like I have no future. And obviously there are exceptions to that. And obviously there are other solutions like leaving the city where you're living, finding a different job, going away from your career path and just getting a job that pays better, whatever it is. But again, when there are so many young people who did and are doing everything right that they were told to do, and they feel like they don't have a future, that is a problem. And this should be a lesson to all Republicans. We do not need to educate young people on the dangers of socialism. They don't care. They don't care. This is not 2015. They want to feel like the American dream is still alive, and 50-year mortgages are not the American dream, no matter which way you cut it. And we also don't want to just shut up and ignore and move on from the corruption and the lack of transparency and the money being sent overseas and just, put squabbles behind us. No, we want to actively fix things and make things better. We want a better future to hope for, not an impending market crash, not crippling debt and endless wars and low wages, even for the young adults who did everything right. So GOP, Republicans in Congress, Trump, what are we going to do about it?